for a diminished value report. Call 727-541-1741. You may owe some money for the lost value of your repaired vehicle. And visit us at GulfstreamMotorsports.com.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
It's now time for Connecting Caregivers with author, speaker, caregiver advocate, and talk show host Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for caregivers.
The caregivers around the world today, it's time to lift you up. It's time to celebrate. Good afternoon and welcome to Connecting Caregivers with me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned. Mouthful.
Yeah, it's a lot.
On the show where you can find help and hope. We're here just to help the caregivers in any way we can with resources, information, a shoulder, a buddy, because we know that your journey's not easy. But with me, as always, is my best friend and co-host and sidekick, not psychic, Lynn Thornley.
Good afternoon.
You need a microphone,
Oh,
girl.
hi. Good afternoon. Good to be here.
She's here. She's in a vlog, but
Yeah,
she's
first time she's ever done this, I think.
You would think. Oh, my goodness. And that laughing in the background is my friend Sean Scott, who we know is on the first Friday of every month. Fabulous elder care attorney. If you have any questions, please feel free to call in today to 727-441-3000 for any questions you might have of Sean.
Correct.
We had another guest that was supposed to be on the show today. She's a grief counselor, Dr. Lucy Turek. Unfortunately, she's sick. Her kid is sick, and she's also pregnant with twins. So I was like, stay home.
Oh, my goodness.
Stay home, and you'll come on the show another day. So, Dr. Lucy, we hope you're feeling better. I promised one of my caregivers has sent me an email the other day, and she said, my mom and I listen to your show every week, and my mom's going to be 98 this week.
Happy birthday.
yes.
And she said, could you wish my mom a happy birthday on the radio show? We'll be listening today. So happy birthday, Jean.
Yes, the
Happy
big
birthday,
9-8.
Jean.
The big
Yeah.
9-8. Yes.
And I heard this afternoon they're going to an ice cream social. Where you get to make all different kinds of ice cream stuff, whatever you want. So enjoy yourself, Jean. And we're so glad that you tune in.
On the TV this morning, they were showing Dick Van Dyke's 99,
Oh my God, this
Wow.
is so cute.
and he exercises 3 times a week with the legs going back and forth. And
And he's still pretty agile because when you see him walking and stuff, I mean, he's not what he was, but he's how old is he?
And that's
I mean,
99. If you're looking for a boyfriend, Gene.
yeah.
Actually, he has a wife who's 46 years younger.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Wow.
Good for him. Good for him.
Wow.
But he's just like such a charming man. I would just
I
like to be
love
around him.
I always remember they said when at Halloween he always gave out the big bars.
Like you.
Right.
So that's when I started
Wow.
doing it because I thought, well, how cool is that?
Yeah, well, the kids came to Lynn's house. They used to bust them into her house. These huge chocolate bars.
Yeah.
Then a kid would try to come back for a second, and her husband would cut off their fingers or
Yeah,
something.
my mother would.
But that was the fun days. I want to give a shout out to our newest listeners. We have Ellie in Clearwater. We have Ramona in Largo. And we have Katrina in New York City.
Welcome, ladies.
So we usually don't have too many shout outs from New York City.
Right.
But,
National. Gone
Katrina
national.
watches it every week on YouTube. And Katrina actually has an aunt who lives in Florida, and her aunt is the one that told her
Oh.
about the show.
Super
We're
awesome.
actually international. She has a lot of Canadian viewers, too.
Oh.
But I have to tell you,
But not next week. Isn't it becoming a new state next week for the
Oh,
the
well,
51st
hopefully.
state? So then
That
it's not
was
international,
over.
right? I mean, yeah, finally I won't have to have a passport to go get, Havana rum and
Yeah.
Or when you
Canada.
go to Mexico.
But now you'll be going out on the Gulf of America.
Oh, I love that place. Have you seen it? Yeah, it's really much better now. Yeah, very, very pretty, very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole thing's covered with a giant stars and stripes now. I don't know how they got that big of a flag, but it's really nice. Yeah,
I don't know. But it's craziness. It is craziness. But anyway,
Gulf of America.
the guy, Katrina from New York City said her aunt told her about the show, so she's been listening to the show. But she's been putting some things into play from the show. She's learned
Really?
some things
Awesome.
with her aunt. And her aunt was like, I never should have told you about that show.
That's right.
Well, why? Why are they bad things? And she's putting
No,
into
but
play.
sometimes when you get older, you don't want to be bossed around.
Oh, right. That's the boss of me.
Yeah. So we had a great support group this morning. We had a great journaling workshop yesterday, and a great virtual support group this morning, and just something I want to talk to you about for a minute or two here. So. Two of the people who are regulars in the support rooms says, well, mom's really starting to do the repeat and stuff now. All of a sudden, we all know it's going to come to that.
Yep.
And she's starting to ask the million questions and so many times. A couple of different things. Go on Amazon. You can buy a clock, a big clock. You can see the time, and it'll say on the top, Tuesday, January 10th or whatever. Another suggestion is get a whiteboard. So even on the whiteboard, you can write Tuesday, January 10th or whatever. You could write 10 o'clock doctor's appointment, 2 o'clock Mary's coming over or whatever, because then they're not going to stop asking you. They may ask you a little less, but it also can make them feel better. Because believe me, I don't think in advanced stages, but in the beginning, you're forgetting stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know
100%.
that
Yep.
you're, and how uncomfortable and how anxious that can make someone.
Yep.
So if you give me a tool that I can use, that maybe I don't have to ask you 15 times, maybe only 5, or maybe not at all on certain things. I think it's a really good idea. And Rick and Corbier used to do that with his mom. And they also had a second whiteboard just for anything that mom was thinking of. She could write it on that board if they weren't around.
Yep. You have to adapt, I think. In the circumstances, there are new things and new problems that are coming at you, and you need to adapt and try to recognize that. And as a friend of mine says, you got to stay agile. You got to be able to move with the new things that are coming at you, for sure. So why not use these kinds of aids and assistance? It just
the
makes
clock
it better.
is a great thing.
Yeah.
Because I know that my friend got one, and
Is it just a giant analog clock?
Yeah, and it changed the time itself, whatever they call that. I always forget what they call that. And it really helped because what's today, Tuesday? It didn't matter, but he could see what it was. And it was a lot better.
Yeah. Well, the one woman said to me, I was happy when I got it because I had stopped working and I didn't know what day of the week it was. She goes, Mom would ask you what day it was. She'd be like, oh, I got to look on the calendar.
I just know garbage days.
Garbage.
Tuesday and Friday, got that down.
And the show.
And the show. I'm done.
Please.
You just want to make sure you have the priorities: garbage and show. Okay, good. We're good.
Oh, you want to hear something hysterical? So last week I'm in a store that I frequent, and I know everybody in there.
Right.
And I'm at the one cash register, and the girl at the other cash register says, when you're done, Linda, come here, I want to tell you something. Oh, yeah, okay. So I go over there. She goes, so last night I get home from work, and I have 2 birds, and they're in a big cage, and I go to say hello to the birds, and as I look in the cage, your picture is on the bottom.
My
on
picture.
The newspaper, my picture.
Oh, your picture.
Yes.
Okay.
She goes, my husband changed the paper in the bird cage.
Your picture.
And there's my picture. She says, that's my customer. I said, so you're telling me that you on your customers?
Yeah. Well, no, it's
bird
actually the
did.
birds do. Yeah.
The bird.
Not me, the bird.
Oh,
God.
Yeah, you never know. It could be next week, could be your picture.
It could be my picture.
We're in the same paper, so.
Can't be mine.
Well, that's kind of poopy.
Yeah,
definitely.
No pun intended.
That's my
All right.
customer. I'm like, oh my God. All right, Sean. So as always, we had some listeners
Good.
send me some questions.
I love these questions. They're always
the first
pretty
one
darn
is-
interesting.
What are advanced directives? I have a will, but my daughter says I need advanced directives.
I like the term, and it's actually very descriptive. An advance directive is usually, wait for it, a direction in advance. All right, that's telling the world kind of what you want to have happen, and it's usually in the context of medical stuff. So if you were looking at a living will, for example, which is that document that says, hey, if I'm in a real bad way, do or do not do things, right? And a component or kind of a companion to that is a healthcare surrogate designation, which designates a person to be your spokesperson. I like to use the word co-pilot to kind of fly the medical plane and make healthcare decisions in the event that you can't. So those two things kind of go together. And collectively, we would call those advanced directives. There's a couple other ones that are out there, pre-need guardianship appointment. You don't see those very often. But again, directions in advance as to what you want to have
Like
happen.
a DNR?
A DNR would be an advanced directive as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
you see, I
exactly.
never knew that.
Do not resuscitate order would be an
Now
advanced
we're
directive.
calling them advanced directives.
So it's just kind of a generic term that kind of encompasses all those little pieces
Oh.
underneath it. So
You always explain it.
All right,
Cool.
so explain to our listeners what's the difference between a DNR and a living will.
Oh, that's a great distinction. We do a lot of these in the office for our clients because this is part of our service. And we'll do a healthcare surrogate, for example, appointing somebody to speak on your behalf. And then we'll do a living will, which tells that person what you want to have done or not done in the event that you're in a real bad way. And then there's a third piece to that kind of puzzle called a DNR. Or a DNRO for short. O stands for order. Do not resuscitate order.
Right.
And the order part is actually a pretty big deal because it is a physician's order.
Okay.
So my clients say, well, let's do a DNR. And I'm like, well, that's not what I do. It's really between you and your physician.
Doctor.
And so in Florida, it is set up on a yellow piece of paper. There's a little red stop sign on it. It's signed by you and signed by the physician. It's exactly the same form every time. So it's extremely standardized. But again, you and the doctor sign it. If you can't sign it, your healthcare surrogate can sign it.
So should I get a DNR now?
When you go in the hospital, they ask you.
They ask
but what
you.
happens,
And they let
what
you
happens if I
fill
go
it
out here and have a car accident?
Yeah. No, let's talk about that. So first of all, and when they go in the hospital, they ask you if you have a healthcare surrogate and a living will.
No, but then they give you the DNR thing if you want it. I know they did with Jack.
They
and then he got
can.
nervous.
They can. But the standard admission process is, do you have this document? So
You're right.
people say, do I need to bring it with me when I'm going to the
Right.
hospital? The answer in my world and what I've seen is and experience is no, you don't, but you definitely need one, 100%.
Right.
But what's the difference between the two? And do you need one? That's a really good question. The difference between the two documents, a living will and a DNR, is that a living will tells the world what you want to have happen. And there's usually a person in the decision chain, okay, that's going to be evaluating the kind of the facts that are presented and is going to talk with a doctor and kind of make this decision regarding, let's say, go or no go, do or do not. In a DNR, there is no person in that decision chain.
Yeah.
It speaks on its own.
Okay.
So there's no evaluation of the circumstances. It just says stop, do not, period. We're not going to look at anything else. We're not going to have taken anything else into consideration. It speaks on its own. And it's, in my opinion, pretty dangerous. And if you think about it, because as I like to say when I talk to my clients, it's like I'm sitting in the conference room and I say to them, hey, if I have a heart attack right now, I want both of you jumping up and down on my chest because I got things to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. I got people to see. I got family. I'm not really ready to punch my ticket. I'm
Right.
I'm not ready to rock and roll out of here. However, if I change facts, had fully metastasized cancer of some
Right.
sort, and I'm still functional, but I get lucky enough to have a heart attack, don't touch me, man. Because I want to go out that way. I don't want to go out the longer,
Suffering from
horrible
cancer or whatever,
thing.
right?
So DNR, you be very careful about just thinking that that's the next thing you need. You probably don't need it,
Okay.
in my opinion, unless
If you have your other stuff in
and
order.
unless you have some sort of either very, very strong view about end of life issues, or you have some sort of other issue that's rolling through. I have let's say if I had a diagnosis of Lewy body disease,
Mhm.
I mean, one of the most horrible dementias in my opinion, and I get lucky enough to have a heart attack, do not touch me, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so that's kind
Yeah.
of the DNR. Interesting thing about the DNR, it has to be on that yellow paper. You can't, from my understanding, I was talking with some fire guys the other day at a conference, and the chief is like, if you have one and you're going to make a copy of it, he was talking about copying it on yellow paper, because if they roll in and it's not on yellow paper, they're not going to be honoring it. It has to be exactly
And it's that
form.
yellow. It's not that other yellow.
Correct.
It's a certain
It's
yellow.
a certain yellow. So
Right.
so that's I learned something new. I didn't know it had to be on the yellow paper all the time. Apparently, you can't make a copy of it. It has to be on the yellow paper.
I know. I didn't know that either. I just know anytime I've ever seen one, it's on yellow paper.
Yep, and that's for a reason. And their standard is that document, not a version of it, something
Right.
that I put out of my computer. It is that one done by Florida. Now, it may be different in different states. This is only what Florida does. So, kind of cool.
Yeah, I was told when my husband, because he had one, but then he was back and forth in emergency, and the people in the ambulance said, "Oh, we don't we keep him alive, then they take care of it there. They won't go by that.
It's very contextual as to when it happens. Generally, the rule is if we have a DNR, don't call the paramedics, okay?
Or don't give them the piece of paper.
But if they roll in and you're standing over the body holding, holding,
the yellow.
they probably won't treat. And once they start treating, by the way,
Right.
and then you're like, oh no, look what I found, and you start
Right.
waving the yellow piece of paper in their eye and their face, that they're not going to stop until they get to the hospital.
Oh,
So
that's what they told me they wouldn't, because he got a little nervous.
It's very
after he had done it. That maybe when
very particular about when they will do that. But the general rule is if you have one and you don't want them to touch you, don't call the paramedics. Okay?
guy.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, the only time I've heard DNRs in this situation is when we go to hospice.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
where I see
Anytime we
that
go in the
people are
hospital,
saying.
they ask you.
I know
Right.
going to
Yep.
hospital, knock wood. So
Yes, but again, so I think we're clear that it's not something that everybody needs by any imagination.
Right.
Okay, so
But if you're ill, you might want to think about it.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you have a surrogate who will talk for you.
Yeah.
Yes, well, that's the living will and the healthcare surrogate. Those kind of go hand in hand, right? They're the person that's speaking on your behalf if you can't. A couple other little interesting
My
things.
best friend.
Yes, well, exactly. Yeah,
I call her the plug puller.
the plug puller. They're so nice. Hey, plug puller, you want to go get a drink? I don't know.
Let's practice.
Oh, let's practice. What are we doing tonight? We're practicing.
Like you can do it, Lynn. You can
I
do
know.
it. You can do it.
I
You
know.
know, you don't know till you're there, but I always keep my word. So that's the only
Yeah.
way you know that I will
Yeah.
never go back on my
And we're
word.
kind of joking about it and laughing about it and everything. It is unbelievably serious,
It
without
is.
question. But at the same time, some of these more serious things, you can run up against them with a little bit of humor and kind of.
Yeah, with that. Yeah.
'cause-
Well, it's like police do it. They always say the policemen, they have that morbid humor
Morbid,
because they have to. I
Yeah.
say they couldn't be police officers.
Yep.
Well, my daughter and my granddaughter always say to me, "We don't like your choices." I said, "That's why you're not my surrogate." I mean,
I'm
they
gonna
love
be-
me dearly, but
Yeah.
they would have me plugged in forever.
and that's
I don't even want them to see me jewel.
Oh no, and that's a great point. Is like the question is, well, who's going to get the duty, right? Who gets to have the privilege of making that ultimate decision for you? And that's a big deal.
Yeah,
And,
because
It's a
her
big deal.
family
and you
will
may
not
have
speak to
kids,
me.
and you're like,
But I
well,
don't
it should
feel
be
bad
my
about
kid, or maybe it should be this person.
Because you won't be here, they'll be yelling at me.
But maybe they're not the right people sometimes.
No.
And who is that person that's really going to be able to implement what you want to have
Well,
happen?
and then if you have somebody like one of your close people that is very religious,
Right? Yeah.
they won't do it.
Yeah. And they can remap their stuff into your stuff. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden you get a different outcome than what you were intending. So who you pick can be pretty darn important. So
So I think it's important to make sure your documents are your documents, what you want.
Yep.
You take better care of your car than you do of yourself. Please do this. Pay attention
Do
to
the
it.
advanced
very
directives.
yes, it's so
Yep.
very important.
I know what that means now.
good. Excellent. So I'm not sure a lot of people actually do. I think
No,
I maybe take it
You
for granted.
always explain
Yeah.
stuff that I get it. That's
Okay.
why I call you Winston Churchill.
Thank you.
Winston Churchill. Okay, what is a ladybird deed?
Oh, excellent.
We haven't talked about that in a long time.
Ladybird deed. Actually, I talk about it every day.
You do?
Yeah. So, all right. So, Ladybird deed. Let's just establish. I really hate the name. Okay, because it really doesn't tell anybody
No, it
what.
sounds flaky.
It
Is it
is.
named after Lady Bird Johnson?
I will tell you the story.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's kind of an interesting story as well. But what a ladybird deed is, and that's what it's referred to most commonly, is something technically known as an enhanced life estate deed, which I don't like those words either, because that doesn't mean anything to you either.
Right.
Okay. So what's a better name? I call it a beneficiary deed.
Okay.
So in essence, what you're doing with this piece of paper is you're adding somebody to your property, your home, for example, as a beneficiary, like a pay on death beneficiary,
Right.
transfer on death beneficiary. So when you're dead, that person magically owns the home. They don't have to go through probate. They don't have to, it doesn't have to be in a trust.
No
They-
taxes?
No taxes as far as transferring it to them. Yes. Probably no taxes when they sell it, if they sell it relatively soon. But the point is it's adding a beneficiary to your house. And it's only available in about 8 states in the country. So Florida is one of them. So we're unique unique of 8 states. And it's a great tool. I use it a lot. It's a very convenient way to avoid having the home or piece of real property go through the probate process.
Yeah.
So again, direct analogy with this, sometimes people will have a bank account, a checking account, money market, CD, something along those lines, and they will set up a beneficiary designation on that account. It's called in trust for, POD, pay on death, TOD, transfer on
Yeah, I
death.
have a TOD.
So those are all exactly the same things. And it's adding a beneficiary to your bank account, which means when you're dead, your beneficiary walks into the bank with your death certificate and their ID, and they give them the money. That's all. No probate, no judge, no lawyer, no fees.
No big
Easy,
deal.
cost effective. A lot of good things about doing that. But we never had the ability to do that with your house. The only way we could get your house to somebody else when you died was to actually give them an ownership interest in it, where they were a co-owner. And so you had right of survivorship. So the last man standing of the two people would own the house automatically.
2 or more?
You could do more than that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'd be me or you as joint tenants with right of survivorship. And if I died, it would be your property. And if you died, it would be mine. So kind of like a beneficiary. But in order to do that, I'm giving ownership away. And now if I want to sell my house, and this is with the joint ownership thing, I got to ask my co-person that owns it with me if I can sell it.
Yeah.
So it's super inconvenient. And also there's a taxation issues on it. And from my Medicaid world that I play in all the time, the creation of that kind of co-ownership in your house disqualifies you for Medicaid.
That's what my first thought was.
Right. Yeah. Which is really bad.
Yes.
It's super bad. Okay.
Yes.
Whereas the creation of this ladybird deed, this beneficiary deed, is not looked at as a gift or a transfer in the eyes of Medicaid.
Another gift of Florida.
So exactly. So doing this doesn't hurt you in any, there's really no downside to doing it. Another cool thing about it is if you change your mind, you can change who the beneficiary is. So if you have,
The other person can't change.
no,
anything.
they can't.
Okay.
But let's say you put Billy Joe
Right.
on your house as
Like
this
Billy.
beneficiary deed, and Billy Joe's going to get that house when you die. But Billy Joe pisses you off, all right, and all of a sudden you don't like Billy Joe any longer. Well, you can replace it with Bobby Sue.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
So that's very cool. I don't do it in every necessary case, but if I have a more simple estate planning case, maybe 1 or 2 bank accounts, 1 or 2 heirs, instead of overkill and using a trust to avoid probate, I would use a ladybird deed to do that, or a beneficiary deed, or what they call an enhanced life estate deed. So why is it called a ladybird
Yeah,
deed?
that's
All
what
right.
I want to know.
Interesting story. So, we find out about this and we're learning about this as lawyers, and this ladybird deed. And I have to explain it to my clients. And, well, what's this ladybird thing? And I had heard a story about Ladybird Johnson. And she has a charity that she does wildflowers on the side of the road. And she was, she wants people to give to her charity the right of way that's in front of their farm or house or
Right.
what ranch or whatever they are. But, people are reluctant to give things away sometimes, especially when it's land and especially when they're not dead yet. Okay.
Yeah.
So I made up this story that, well, she wanted to encourage you to do that. So, hey, how about you give it to me when you die? But we can set it up right now. And if you ever want to change your mind, you can change your mind. So look, no commitments. This is going to be easy. And they probably wouldn't change their mind. So she and her charity would get that land. So it's called a ladybird deed. That is 100% baloney. Okay.
Oh, I like that story.
It's a really good story. And it's really just baloney. So here's the actual origin, and it's kind of interesting. So I have a very good friend of mine. His name's Scott Solkoff, and he's my age, and he does what I do. And we started doing this practice of elder law, and basically the same time in the same year. And he's in South Florida. And I'm up in kind of, the Gulf Coast here. And so Scott's pretty cool guy, very, very smart. And he has the unique advantage over me in that his dad was named Jerry Solkoff. Well, Jerry Solkoff is probably one of the first 3 original elder law attorneys in the state of Florida.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this is the dude, right, that started elder law in Florida, basically, one of the 3. And he's very, very good at what he does or did. He was so good that he wrote this treatise for West Publishing, Florida Elder Law. So it's this 2-volume set. It's all this stuff. It's everything about it. It's really, really cool. And so Jerry used to do a lot of speaking on elder law topics to other lawyers, and he would do CLEs, continuing legal education events. And so when this Ladybird deed thing, the enhanced life estate deed, came out, he's talking to a bunch of lawyers. And lawyers, when they do things, especially when they have like a sample deed, they make up names. So, for example, if I'm going to be teaching about this type of deed, I will have Luke Skywalker conveying it to Obi-Wan Kenobi, because you just put those names in because it's funny and it's kind of a thing that we've been doing since law school. So Jerry does the same thing. So he's putting this deed up, and one of the parties is Lady Bird Johnson. And that's how it started.
Oh my!
From his seminar. It's this, I know, to me, it's crazy that has now turned into.
You never know, right?
Everybody knows it as a Lady Bird deed because he used the name in a deed that he was showing.
Interesting.
Crazy. Anyways, that's the story.
Okay, right now it's time to hear from our wonderful partners, because you know the deal. If you don't hear from them, you don't hear from me. So don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Are you getting older, or are you taking care of somebody who is? You know, getting older creates new problems you probably never imagined. One of the big ones is, how do you pay for care? Care in your home, care in an assisted living facility, or care in a nursing home. Did you know that nursing home care in our community can cost up to $12,000 per month? For the last 33 years, our office has helped families access benefits, including Medicaid, VA, and PACE, to help pay for the cost of long-term care. Regardless of what your assets are or what your income is, you can qualify for these benefits. Proper planning and guidance are absolutely necessary to avoid being wiped out. Let us help. If you are in care or heading in that direction, we can help solve that problem. Take action now to obtain benefits to pay for the cost of care. Here are the 4 things that you need to do. 1, get a new power of attorney. Your old one probably isn't good enough. Get a healthcare surrogate and a living will. 3, get an estate plan that will not disqualify you from benefits. And 4, get a plan to qualify for Medicaid, PACE, or VA benefits to pay for the long-term care costs. Call us today for a free consultation, 727-539-0181, or go to flmedicaid.com and download our free book on Medicaid and planning for long-term care. I'm Sean Scott. I'm here to help.
My mom was getting older, but she was able to live pretty independently until recently. When her case manager told me she would be discharged from rehab in just a few days, I didn't know what to do. But I knew for sure that she couldn't go back living alone at home. So that's when I contacted Sunway's Senior Living Concierge. My Senior Living Concierge, Lisa, was there for me through the whole process and was a free service for us to compare in-home care options and how that cost would compare to assisted living. With Lisa's help, we found a great new home for Mom, and she is thriving. Take it from me, don't go through this journey alone.
Hi, I'm Ellie Baldwin, co-founder and president of Sunway's Senior Living Concierge. We're a free placement and concierge service for families to help compare senior living communities and find the best place for you or a loved one. Call us today at 727-314-6451 or find us online at sunwayseniorliving.com.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
We're the chefs.
And we're back.
Chefs. Oh my God.
And we're back.
Yeah.
All right, so we're talking this morning in the beginning about getting your papers in order, okay? There's something additional I think you need to add to your toolbox. So my friend Jessie Brown from Catalyst for Connections,
Right.
her dad was in a memory community. And one day they called her up and said, he's really agitated and we don't know what to do. We can't calm him down. Can you please come? So she goes there and she finds out in 1 minute that her dad was trying to start a ball game.
Right.
Because he was a coach his whole life. He was in the first Super Bowl and whatever. So in 2 minutes, she could get him calmed down. Now, you know, when you move in that community, you fill out 32 pages of paper about what dad likes and what dad doesn't like. The same thing when you get home health. Maybe the first round of people read it, I'm sorry to say. And we keep changing, you know, staff
Sure,
and
absolutely.
whatever.
Right.
So she created a QR code for her dad.
Very cool.
And there's 3 little videos. One shows a little video about him being in the NFL. The other one's a video with his kids. And the last one, when he was still verbal, she says to him, chocolate ice cream, no. Strawberry, yes. So it goes through all the things that he likes and let him be able to say that. And it says, at the end of the one with the food, she says, and if all else fails and my dad is agitated, just give him a hot dog with mustard and relish and he'll be happy. Well, what a good thing to know.
Correct.
So she put that little QR code on the door of his room. With
Catalyst
a little sign,
Connections.
with a little sign that says, anyone who watches this, I'll buy them a Starbucks coffee. So everyone from the janitor to the owner of the company
got a lot of coffee.
Oh my God, what conversations they started having with him. You were in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely brilliant.
And then she has it made on a business card. So if he goes in an ambulance or something,
Right.
the EMT guys look at it, oh my God, you were in the Super Bowl, you know, and all this stuff.
And apropos, because it's Super Bowl weekend, and this guy played in the first 2 Super Bowls for the Green Bay Packers.
Oh my God.
We got stuff to talk
Green
about.
Bay Packers?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's such a fabulous tool. I'm making one now for myself because I could get in a car accident when I leave here today and maybe won't be able to make any decisions. You know, and I want to say what kind of music I like to hear or what, you know, they asked one of the guys, one of my caregivers asked her dad, if I had to put you in front of a TV, you go put stuck in front of a TV, what would you want on the TV? And he said, The Simpsons. Of course, it's very colorful and it makes him laugh. Well, nobody in the home, believe me, is going to put The Simpsons on for you. You need to say what you want.
Yep. I don't think, would it be The Simpsons for me? What's that other one that I really like?
I don't know.
With Seth MacFarlane. Yeah, not South Park. That nobody will let me watch South Park in my nursing home. I swear to God.
Well, like this guy just
I'll be kicked out. Okay.
This guy just put him in front of a sports. Put any sports on. He's good to go.
Remember Jack like Jerry Springer and Steve?
Oh my goodness gracious.
We had it on a loop because he'd fall asleep saying, we haven't seen this before.
Oh my goodness.
Then your mother liked it too. You know why? Because you don't have to think.
Yeah.
Yep, I know. Sometimes that's a good thing. Well, if you look at what it is, it's a couple pictures of Tom, and there's a big QR code on there, and then on the back it does say some fun facts about him. And so whether you're going digital or not, you can approach it from 3 different ways. I just pulled it up on my phone. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
There's videos of him, and look, there's his favorite food, and I can see his hot dog.
Yeah, and you can change him anytime you want.
It's fabulous.
And it's reasonable.
Really cool.
$4.99 a month.
Yeah, $4.99 a month.
Really,
and
really
they'll change it for you. You don't have to change
It's
it.
easy.
Yep, easy peasy.
Yeah,
money well spent. Yep, absolutely.
So
Very
think
cool.
about Catalyst. The number 4 Connections is the website.
Catalyst.
I think that's
4
another thing that you want in your toolbox. Like I said, I'm making one for me because I want to say what I want to say. I want to have what I want to have. I do.
I was just thinking maybe we can, and I'm going a little bit off topic here, but boy, this could be one of the newest dating applications. And you could just walk into the bar and like hand chicks your thing with a QR code, and they could see all your videos, if you know what I'm saying.
I tell you, one of my caregivers who husband passed away, she's in the dating pool now.
Right. Speaking of dating pool.
Yes. But what she does is, so she meets them through Match or one of the sites or whatever. But she has a Zoom call with them.
All right.
So she sets up a separate email just for that, so they don't have her email.
Right.
She doesn't give them their phone number or anything.
Right.
And she sets up a Zoom call before she meets them, which is brilliant because how many times you walk in the bar to meet the guy and you can't even see him because he doesn't look like the picture.
We did 30 years ago.
Yeah.
No, right. I would tell you, every time I met a guy using Match, it has never worked out.
You poor guy. I feel for you. We have another question for you.
I'm in a mood today, by the way.
I noticed when you walked in. So another woman contacted me and she said, my niece is on all the papers for my aunt, and I think she's stealing from my aunt, and I can't really prove it. and I don't know what to do.
Okay, that's a very good question.
That's tough.
Sometimes things just don't smell right, and you're kind of watching what's going on and you're seeing what's happening, and something, again, doesn't feel right. Something's got your hair in the back of your neck raising, or just, again, something's wrong here. At least you think there is. So the question then is, well, how can you keep the bad things that you think might be happening from happening? So, and there's a power of attorney involved, and you think that power of attorney person is not doing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
So there's a couple of different avenues that are there. The easiest way that I would think is there's an abuse hotline in Florida, 1-800-96-ABUSE. And that goes right to the state of Florida and will connect to more likely an adult protective investigator, an API, that works with the Department of Children and Families. And these guys and gals will go out and check out what's going on. And in my practice, there's oftentimes a lot of financial reconfiguring that's happening.
Yeah.
And we're working with the power of attorney because mom or dad is in the nursing home. And sometimes there's a family member or a neighbor or somebody that's like, oh, what is going on here? And they see that power of attorney is taking all of that person's money.
Right.
Air quotes. Okay. So they get a little nosy, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from my client that there's an abuse report, and the DCF is called, and the sheriff's coming, and they're losing their mind because,
we're in trouble.
We're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
And this does happen a couple of times a year, not very often, but usually what it takes from my side of things is to talk with the adult protective investigator and say, hey, and they all know me down there anyways. And I'm like, this is what we're doing. We're just qualifying them for Medicaid, and I'm working with the power of attorney, and all the movement of assets is all being directed by me at my direction. There's no funny business that's going on. There's no abuse or neglect. And the thing goes away. But there's not always somebody like me in the picture. Right. And there can be bad actors that are out there that are taking advantage of that person. So how do you fix this? My first option would be call 1-800-96-ABUSE.
Yeah.
You can also get law enforcement involved in the situation as well. But the 96-ABUSE hotline is probably the best way.
Yeah, law enforcement are busy with other stuff, really.
Correct. And the system is built and let me tell you, they're called APIs. They do take their job seriously. They come in like hair on fire, all right, and they are going to protect that person. And so they may come off, if you're the person that they're suspecting, they're tough, okay, for sure, and for good reasons. So, and I think it's an effective solution. So.
My first suggestion would be try to sit down and talk with this person first.
I understand.
Because they might be able to just explain to you some stuff that's going on that would make it understandable to you.
Worried, I don't want to be involved.
Very angry.
I don't want to get involved, right? Or I don't want to make anybody mad. Or God, I'm afraid of them. Okay, right. So that can really chill your. Hey, let's talk and see. Are you really taking that girl's money? That may not. But the nice thing about this, I think, a nice thing about it is that it's anonymous. So when you make that 1-800-96-ABUSE report,
like a kid.
Correct. The person that's filing the complaint, so to speak, is never identified. So you can do it without never. So you can do it without having any fear of making on purpose, obviously. So that's why I think it's such a good. If you're going to do it, that's the system that's designed to do it.
Okay. So what happens that now she finds out she is a crook?
Right.
Where do you go then?
Well, again, if the API is involved, there can be a guardianship that's instituted. Again, law enforcement now can actually be called in. People can be arrested and charged with crimes. Abuse of the elderly is a felony in the state of Florida. Again, taken very seriously. They're not messing around with that. So there is definitely steps that happen after that situation. From another angle that's there, let's say you're a family member and your brother's the power of attorney and he's up to no good and you're pretty sure that he's not, he's doing bad things. There is a way to stop his authority as a power of attorney. And that is filing a guardianship, going to the court and saying, hey, listen, my dad is incapacitated and he needs a guardian. And when you file that petition with the court, the authority that the power of attorney has stops immediately.
Oh.
So you can really put a kibosh on that
Right
guy's
away.
ability right away to do that. So that's kind of that's if you're moving the pieces on the board, that's your next move. If you're a family member, you can say, listen, I'm filing a guardianship, and that cuts the power of attorney off. So that's another way of doing it.
Okay.
So good
Okay.
question. Excellent.
All right. My next question is, what's the biggest mistake people make?
Just pull that one out of thin air.
I did, because I'm trying to think, because if people make mistakes and don't realize they even made a mistake,
Well,
you know, or they think their paperwork is perfect, and don't even know they made a mistake.
I think there's a lot of different mistakes that are made, but if I was going to try to say,
First of all, not planning at all is the biggest mistake.
well, exactly, is taking no action. Okay, because either you don't think you have a problem, or you'll get around to it, or you don't think you have an issue. Oh, I don't need a will. I don't have enough money to have a will. Classic. That's what my mother told me at lunch. Really, Mom? Since when did you graduate law school? But this is very common, is that they don't recognize they have a problem, or they think they might, but they don't take any action. And that's the biggest issue. And I know it sounds silly, but fixing this and taking action isn't hard, and also isn't expensive in comparison to
What's going to happen in the long run?
and the problem that's going to manifest, whether it's having to go through a guardianship because you have no power of attorney, having to go through probate because you didn't use a trust, having to pay the nursing home $12,000 a month because you didn't access Medicaid to pay for it instead.
Right.
I mean, I'm too rich to take. I don't have too much money. I'll never qualify for Medicaid. It's only for poor people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's wrong. But that's the biggest mistake, is assuming that there either is no solution or not taking action to solve it. So
Okay. And don't you also see bad documents a lot? Let's talk a little bit about that.
let's talk about bad documents.
Because I think sometimes people, they write that will, whatever it is, and they put it in the box, and it's there for 20 years.
Yeah, and every day, literally every day, I'm reviewing documents, and oftentimes one's done by other lawyers, for example. And one of the big failure points in the document world, in my world, is this durable power of attorney, which is kind of an advanced directive, but not for medical stuff, but for financial stuff. So who's going to be your person to deal with your financial affairs, so to speak? And so this is actually a very, very important document, probably the most important document that you can have in your life. It's redundancy to make sure that we have a backup plan, a co-pilot that can fly if you can't fly. But here's where it breaks down, is that document that's drafted is strictly construed in Florida. And strict construction means that if the piece of paper and the words in that piece of paper do not say that you can do that particular thing, you can't do it. And you can't infer that, it said this, and that's just like this other thing, so I should be able to do that too.
Yeah.
No, that you can't infer anything. So let me give you a real good example. We do a lot of things. We do a lot of trusts called income trusts in my office, where we're using that tool to help our client qualify for Medicaid benefits. It's mandated by federal legislation, and it's very clear on what type and kind of trust it has to be. So we will see power of attorney documents that give your co-pilot the authority to create revocable trusts. And you look at that, and that sounds like a pretty good thing, because the only trust that you've ever heard about is a revocable trust. However, this income trust tool that I use by federal law is an irrevocable trust. So if that piece of paper that allows you to be me says that you can create revocable trusts, and you need to create an income trust for me to make me eligible for Medicaid, you can't do it, because you can only create revocable REVs, and you can't create irrevocable trusts. So that's a very, very specific example, but I see it all the time.
And if they live in another state and they move to Florida, they need to have their papers.
Agreed.
Like
that using that income trust issue again, because again, it's a good example. In Michigan, for example, what your income is does not matter regarding your eligibility for Medicaid benefits to pay the nursing home.
Really?
It's not a factor in determining whether you get Medicaid.
What state is that?
Michigan. Okay, to use that as an example. In Florida, it is a requirement what your income is, and it has to be below a certain amount in order to be eligible for these benefits. So totally different worlds that you're living
Yeah.
in. So if you're living in Michigan and your lawyer up there is drafting a power of attorney for you, the chances that he is going to put into that document and give the authority to your backup person to create an income trust is about zero.
Yeah.
Because that is a solution to a problem they don't have. He
Right.
doesn't even know about.
Interesting.
So when you come trucking down to Florida with your Michigan power of attorney, I would say there's a 90% or greater chance that that provision is not going to be in that.
Yeah.
So you need to localize to Florida's jurisdiction if you're moving down here and get a Florida power of attorney. So,
And I think sometimes you just need to look at your papers again.
yep.
Because what I
right.
decided 10 years ago, maybe in my head, I think this is everything I said.
Well,
You know
it's
what
not
I'm
so,
saying?
Yeah. But it's not so much what you decided, but who you decided.
Yeah. Because maybe
So-
that person isn't even around anymore.
So today I was dealing with a client. I met them back in 2014, and I did documents for them in 2014, 2016, 2021, and today. And so in the course of that time, the husband and the wife, she got ill and died on us. And she recently died about 6 months ago. So he's coming in to review his documents. And what his document was in 2008, his will, and what it should be today are radically different. Because his last will that he had appointed her to be his personal representative and was the beneficiary of all his assets.
Yeah.
And now she's dead.
Yeah.
So things change on you. Your
Yeah.
documents need to adapt as those things change. So.
Yeah. And it's just good to get things reviewed.
Yep.
Just get things reviewed. It's not a big
I'm
deal.
a big fan. About every 5 years, I try to encourage my estate planning clients to come in for a tune-up,
Yeah.
just to touch base and redo the power of attorney, see if there's been any life changes, and adapt. So yeah, about every 5 years, you should change your oil.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, the players may be different players.
Yep, exactly. Life
know,
happens.
You know,
Life
it's even
happens.
people that have backup plans, their caregiver backup plan. Like if something happens to me, I know my sister could help, or whatever their
Correct.
thing is, and then all of a sudden, bang, something happens to their sister's husband. Now she's not on the team no more.
Correct. Or something. Yeah.
She can't
or
help you somebody that could help you before.
She was a viable candidate and a good option, and now because of the changes in that person's life,
Right.
now she's a caregiver and she's got this going on, and all of a sudden she's not a good person to be your backup plan.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. So
Exactly.
think about that stuff. But
things
right now,
change.
it's time to hear from our wonderful partners, so don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Choosing the right chiropractor is an important choice to make. Located in Seminole, the Alexander Spine Center team is trained on the latest chiropractic treatments and technologies. At Alexander Spine Center, you'll find chiropractic and physical therapy care that is safe, effective, and a natural approach to pain and other health-related issues. Chiropractic unlocks your body's potential and natural healing process to ensure your life is a healthy life. We treat clients from the womb to the tomb. Call 727-397-3000 for a free consultation today, or visit our website at www.alexanderspinecenter.com.
They take good care of me twice a week, so check them out.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
We believe the power of the human body and mind can do amazing things, and that tapping into that power, not just tricking it with a temporary disguise, is possible. Superpatch technology uses a special pattern and vibrotactile technology to help you go from feeling blah to hurrah. Now, once the Superpatch is in contact with your skin, it triggers a neutral response in the brainstem that helps you tackle your daily problems head on. Whether you're struggling with pain, balance, stress, or focus, we have a solution that might be right for you. With Superpatch's 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Hi, this is Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers. I started using the Liberty Patch over 3 years ago. I used to be a tripper, but since wearing a Liberty Patch, I haven't tripped once. The Liberty Patch is proven to reduce the risk of falling by up to 8 times. And as we all know, if you prevent the fall, you prevent the call. Don't wait until it's too late. Preventative solutions are the answer.
Superpatch does not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure illness. Superpatch is FDA registered. To receive 25% off your first order, go to sticktoit.info. That's sticktoit.info and learn more.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we're back.
Oh my goodness.
So we have a couple of events coming up on Tuesday, February 18th. Dr. Thomas Pearson, he's a neurologist in Palm Harbor. He'll be speaking at Bethel Lutheran Church on behalf of Arden Courts.
And those are really good
Oh
presentations
my God, and this
that they
guy's
put
great.
on.
I've seen him before.
Well
He's
worth your time
great.
and effort to get out there. Well run, well presented, and
Yeah.
oftentimes it's fabulous speakers. I got to speak once.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I
fabulous
was
speakers.
there.
So you can
I went for the free
RSVP
lunch.
to 771-1600. Then the Preserve is having a Veterans Cafe every third Thursday at 4 p.m.
And what's that?
Join the Preserve at Dunedin for our monthly Veterans Cafe, a comfortable and supportive environment to share stories and find connection with other area veterans.
Cool.
Very
really
interesting.
cool.
I'll have to check it out and see what that's like. So if you're interested, it's the second Tuesday of every month. You can contact Michelle at 727-641-5483. And as always, I put all this information in the show. And then there'll be a senior panel discussion at the Preserve also on February 26th at 5 p.m. Home care versus health care. How do I protect my assets? How do I pay for home care?
Neat.
What do I do with all my stuff? What home care services are covered by health insurance? What are my senior living options? And learn how to pay for private duty assisted living. So that is pretty big.
Very,
A lot
very
of
good.
people will be there. A lot of good questions. So once again, that's February 26th at 5 p.m. But she doesn't have an RSVP on here. Oh, the RSVP is a website. communitywarriors.pinellas@gmail. So like I said, I'll put the information in the show. It's probably easier for you to contact it that way. Once again, get into a support group. I'll have a live support group next Saturday at Arden Courts. You can bring your loved one with you.
That's nice.
So you can actually come to the support group and spend some time and knowing that your loved one is in another room being entertained by people and having a wonderful time while you can just breathe. It's really a wonderful
Yeah,
thing.
it's a beautiful synergy there because I can't go to the support group because who's going to take care of my person?
Right.
Well, we solved that for you.
Well, and it's such a nice thing because it gives the opportunity of your person to see what a community is like.
Yep. Very good.
So it's all good. So that's about the end for today. Tune in next week for another fabulous show. If you need any information, you can contact me at lindaburhans.com. The next conference will be going live in a couple of weeks, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. I'm very excited to say. Remember, God loves you all the time, and have a delicious day.